The Any Given Thursday squad is back.
Finally.
Harrison Graham and Shea Sr. with you. Producer Jack, stressy Jack, but he's ready to rock and roll as well. I'm kidding. He's fine. It's been a while, man. About a month?
Long. Yeah, about a month. I mean, we had a lot of things sprinkled in. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. But still, we continue to do our duty for the people, churning out videos like crazy because we are the content daddies. And once again, we're churning out videos again today. Let's do it.
The content daddies didn't go anywhere.
No.
We just got spread to other areas of the company.
Exactly.
So we're back in our normal time slot, 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central Time. Mostly NBA to talk about today, but we'll sprinkle in a little college football because the hot boards continue. Shout out your city. Let us know where you guys are watching from. And let's get this puppy popping. We need some more viewers in this piece as we get going. Did you have a happy New Year?
Had a great New Year, man.
I think
really
we all
good
did.
New Year.
It was,
At the homie Mitchell Renz's crib.
You heard the birds chirping?
Heard the birds chirping. Didn't go to bed till 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Slept
Got
until
to end
3.
the night talking to Kira, and then I FaceTimed her twice on Eastern time zone and Central time zone.
We talked to her the second time.
Two-time Happy New Year's. That's a good way to ring it in, yeah.
Good times. Hope you guys all had a happy New Year. Let us know where you're watching from. Jack mailed it in on Eastern time zone. He said he even make it to Central. That's questionable. Rashard Lee, MIA, is that Miami, or you're just saying you don't know where you're at? Inner Harbor, Baltimore. I'm honestly confused.
I thought
here.
Tom Downey's burner account was a Harrisburg guy.
No, he's the Orioles fan. Remember?
I know, but he said he went to Penn State. I thought he told us at one point that he lived in
Clarify
Harrisburg.
this, Tom Downey's
please
burner.
do.
Collins in OKC. We got Sei in Chicago. Let's see. Tom Downey's burner was also asking, what's the best Madden game? The 04 one with Vic, which is the one you suggested, seems to be a popular one. I kind of liked the what was the one with McNabb on the cover? We were just talking about Donovan McNabb. I actually liked that one.
06, I'd say. That's when he's in his prime alongside Tom Brady and Peyton Manning.
Yeah, 2006.
Good work by you, Jack.
That was a good one. 80 is in Hawaii. We've got Detroit in the house from Mike Austin. Let's see. He said he was born in Harrisburg.
Got it.
Born in Harrisburg. So there's the confirmation on that one. Say you're already asking questions. If you guys want to use hashtag NBA, we can try to sprinkle in questions maybe, but we'll see on that front. Kid, that's not going to be allowed. So that's just how that's going to be. All right. Shout out your favorite NBA team. I looked up the other day and I was like, dude, the NBA season's like almost halfway over.
Halfway over.
About 40 games?
Yeah, I mean, the NBA trade deadline is February 10th, so our coverage is going to continue to kind of ramp up a little bit as we'll push out even more videos than what we've been doing.
Yep.
And then the All-Star game coming up as well. So we're about at that halfway mark of the regular season, which really is crazy.
Do we still care about the All-Star game?
No, but it's at least a time that you look at the NBA calendar and you're like, okay, this is where we're at.
Exactly. The dunk contest, we'll see who enters it. We'll see what happens.
Not Zion.
By the way, hot take, I don't think Zion plays this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think he plays this year. Lakers/Mavs from Rashard Lee. He says, my name is Shea, but it's spelled. Okay, I got you, Shea. Warriors from Denzel. Spencer is a Lakers fan. Tom Downey's burner's a Cavs fan. Hey, we were making fun of him when he kept saying the Cavs were going to be good this year, Chase. And, hey, they're pretty good.
Hey, no joke. They've been one of the more exciting teams in the NBA. Of course, you can kind of separate all these teams in different tiers in terms of great teams, middle tier teams.
Sure, they're still not a title
How about,
contender.
let's talk about this. Two of the more exciting teams this year, Cleveland Cavaliers, Memphis Grizzlies.
Yes.
Two of the more exciting teams to watch this year have been those two star-studded young squads in the NBA.
The youth on those squads is really, really impressive. Nets from New York, man. Broken Clock is right. He says, hey, you were right, though, man. Denzel says Warriors. Favorite Cav is Adrunas Ilgauskas. Wow, that's a throwback right there. All right, name a player that should be traded. If you had to pick one guy, Chase.
Ben Simmons.
Well,
say less.
Let's exclude Simmons because
You asked for one player. I gave you one player really quickly.
Yes. I think we all think Ben Simmons should be traded. But who after that should be traded?
Should be Damian Lillard. Ask out of Portland, get out of there, go to New York, go to Philadelphia, go to a big market, and finally let people know just how great you are. He's kind of been sequestered and hidden in the Pacific Northwest, and of course he's a national superstar. I want to see him go to being a global superstar. Get out of Portland. You're not going to win a championship there.
Over.
Go to a championship contending team. Boston could be lit as well. That's a player that should be traded, but he probably won't be traded.
Rashard Lee says Westbrook. We'll definitely talk about Russ. Colin Reed, Kenridge Williams for Austin Reeves. Shout out K. Rich, the real ones know.
Yeah, TCU.
Little 35 piece on that
Horned
one.
Frogs.
Little 35K on that. Harrison Barnes, that could be an interesting one. I think Sacramento Chase is a team to watch.
Sell.
Yeah, get rid of some of those contracts. Lillard to the Knicks from New York, man. Don't you wish you played for the Knicks? Let's see, Jetty Osman. We've got Dame Lillard in there as well. Westbrook, jeez. What a disastrous trade that was.
Should have traded for Buddy Hield. We said it right here on air. I was standing right here. You were standing right there.
Yep.
We thought it was going to be the Buddy Hield trade. Instead, it was for Russ. Last minute, and it was a mistake.
Absolute disaster. Who's the better player right now? Type LBJ for LeBron James. Type KD for Kevin Durant. Man, the push LeBron has made in the month of December and now into January has been pretty darn impressive. But Kevin Durant continues to do his thing as well. Better player right now. Who you taking?
Still got to go Kevin Durant because I think he's the most unstoppable offensive player in terms of just being a force. Yeah. But LeBron James is a physical force. He's a different player, though. Which player do you want to rely on to take you through a playoff run? Because of the age scenario, I might go Kevin Durant, but don't sleep on what LeBron James has been doing this year. He's averaging the most points per game since he was 24 years old, and in case you missed it, he just turned 37 years old in December. So it goes to show you just how dominant he's been, and he continues to defy Father Time. It really is wild.
He's picking up the slack from Russell Westbrook. That's for sure.
And no Anthony Davis, who, what do you know, is injured yet again.
Yeah, KD from New York, man. I think Westbrook hasn't been that bad from Spencer. I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one. Let's see. We got isn't Westbrook making like $45 million a year? Yep, he's making, I think it's like 44.5. So, yeah, just about. Got a KD. Goat James from Rashard Lee. I think the MVP race could be interesting. Could a Joel Embiid get in there with his resurgence as
I think so,
late?
too. DeMar DeRozan?
Dude.
It has to be in the conversation.
DeMar's been unreal.
Ja Morant has to be in the conversation as well. The MVP race, we get so obsessed with like the marquee superstars. There are other players who deserve to be in there.
Jokic is having another insane season. So, there's no
Jokic
doubt.
is averaging like 17 boards per night, too.
Yeah, and like 8 assists again. It's like, it's just, he's a point guard playing center. It's nuts. Will a team sign DeMarcus Cousins? The Bucks have surprisingly decided to waive him after 17 games. They want to clear a roster spot. So, will he get signed? I think he will. I'm typing my wife for yes. We'll talk about this more during our NBA news and rumors portion, but I definitely think that DeMar DeRozan will and should get signed. I think he's played pretty DeMarcus Cousins, excuse me. I think he has played pretty well, Chase.
No, I think so, too. And I was quite surprised with how Boogie played. And there were a couple of games where the Bucks really needed him to come through to help them become victorious. And it's just kind of been a weird career for DeMarcus Cousins. Obviously, he had about a decade-long stretch where he was phenomenal. And then all those injuries happened. But before that, he was one of the best big men in the league and then kind of tails off just a bit. And now he's become somewhat of a journeyman, but the Clippers pick him up, and I thought he was pretty good for the Clippers, but he couldn't last there. The Bucks pick him up. He played well, couldn't last there either. So where is DeMarcus Cousins in his career right now?
I think right now he's a offensive, not flamethrower, but like he can be a guy who can give you like 10 points in 15 minutes off the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what he is. He's not good on defense, but he's still a skilled offensive player that I think has a place in today's NBA.
Yeah.
Jay says yes. New York Man says yes. Tom Downey's burner says yes as well. Oh, he says the Shanghai Tigers. I think he's going to land with an NBA team. We'll see what happens. We're also going to talk a little college football. Could Michigan and Ohio State lose Jim Harbaugh and Ryan Day. We'll see on that front. But there's still one game to go in college football, the national championship this Monday night. Who's going to win it? Type UGA for Georgia. Type Bama for Alabama. Who you got? You rolling with the Tide?
I'm rolling with the Tide. I can't believe they're underdogs.
That's
weird. Crazy to me.
We just saw this game, and they won by 17.
Yeah.
Why would they be underdogs?
Hey, Jack, sub-only chat isn't on, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I checked that.
Well, that sucks.
Well,
okay,
just get these cuts and get after it.
Yep.
Type UGA for Georgia. Type Bama for Alabama. Please, UGA, get this done from Tom Downey.
I wouldn't hate it.
Oh, man, it's a bloodbath. Let's see. I'd love to see Georgia win it. I will say that. You don't need to loop this piece, Jack. We're good on this. We'll just jump right on in. We got a lot of stuff to get into. Some NBA news, some rumors. We'll talk about a handful of teams as well. Plus, Michigan, Ohio State, could they be losing their head football coaches? We will take a look at that later on in the show as well. But we're going to start with some general NBA rumors and news, some trade buzz circulating as well. That's coming up right now. Welcome into Any Given Thursday by Chat Sports. Harrison Graham, Chase Sr. here to talk some NBA as the NBA trade deadline is just over a month away on February 10th. Before we get to some trade rumors, though, a bit of a surprising move here, Chase. The Milwaukee Bucks have decided to part ways with DeMarcus Cousins after 17 games with the team.
Yeah, and look, he came in for an injured Brook Lopez and was asked to occupy a lot of center minutes for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I thought replacing Brook Lopez, he actually played pretty well. Only 17 of those games, but in some of those moments, he was asked to do a lot, and he came through in some pretty clutch situations, had a couple of big games. Now, why was he released considering how well he played? I mean, the general manager for Milwaukee, as we're about to show you, heaped praise upon DeMarcus Cousins, but they wanted to clear a roster spot, and that's why he was let go. But given how he played, I do think DeMarcus Cousins is going to be able to land with another NBA team. More so in that journeyman role that he's been in over the last couple of years. Now with Milwaukee, last year hung on with the Clippers, kind of had that role as well with the Golden State Warriors. But if you need a beefy body down low, DeMarcus Cousins can be that. Is it going to be the athletic force that he was for about a decade long, where he was knocking down threes, a great modern-day big man? No. But he can occupy some bench minutes for a team that is looking to be a contender and get into the playoffs.
Yeah, this one surprises me a bit. Sure, Lopez could be coming back, and maybe they just figure, okay, his role goes away. But, I mean, the numbers have been pretty appealing for a guy who's getting like 16 minutes a game, 9 points.
Can shoot the three, too, a little bit.
6 rebounds. The field goal, the efficiency from Boogie hasn't been this good in a while, which is a bit of a surprise, that uptick. So I am a little bit surprised that this happened at this time. But good news for Boogie is that his stock, while it's never going to be super high at this point in his career, like, he's at least signable. Like, a team should, be willing to bring him in.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm looking at teams like the Golden State Warriors, who have Kevon Looney, James Wiseman once he comes back. You have Nemanja Bjelica in that front court as well. But depending on the matchup, you don't really have that big center who can hold it down on the low block and give you a defensive presence against another center who is somewhat physical. And we've seen the Warriors struggle in that regard. So I'm looking at a team like that and other contending teams that I think could have a little bit of an interest in DeMarcus Cousins. Look, again, not the player he once was, and it's really unfortunate that all the injuries did happen, but he can certainly help a playoff team. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so we'll ask you guys this question: which team should sign Boogie Cousins? And I think there will be multiple suitors. Maybe the Lakers get in the mix as well on that front, although they've kind of gone to a more of a small ball traditional or untraditional lineup, if you will. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments section. If you guys want to go bet on some NBA games, MVP, most improved, rookie of the year, you can go bet on all of that stuff and a whole lot more. Go bet on the NFL playoffs, which are just around the corner. One place to do it, BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use our promo code CHAT125. That is CHAT125. When you go to our URL below, that is chatsports.com/bet. Okay, let's talk Russell Westbrook. It obviously has not gone as well as things as the Lakers had planned since they traded for him. It's who could have seen that coming? The report from Sam Amick of The Athletic said that the Lakers have shown some covert interest, that being the quote there, in trading Russ earlier this season. Nothing has materialized. It doesn't seem like it's going to, and I think it's pretty obvious why, Chase. The decline in production continues to be there. We already know he's a reckless player, especially when it matters the most, and most importantly, the contract's just bad.
The contract's bad considering who the player is, how he plays, and how he's going to age. I thought it was absolutely hilarious the other day when he didn't turn the basketball over for the first time in like 400 games, and people are praising Russell Westbrook for playing a clean slate and not turning the basketball over when Tyrese Maxey, a second-year player, has done that a handful of times this year alone. Look, the Lakers have made a handful of wrong decisions in the last calendar year pertaining to the point guard position. Prior to the NBA trade deadline and at the deadline, they should have traded for Kyle Lowry. They did not because they didn't want to include Talen Horton-Tucker. That's a mistake. Secondly, with Russ directly involved, they were about to trade away KCP and Kyle Kuzma, maybe Montrezl Harrell for Buddy Hield, and they ended up not. They pivoted last second to trade for Russell Westbrook, and the experiment has been a disaster. The statistics are never the problem with Russell Westbrook. It's the style in which he plays with, and that style is not conducive to winning or long-standing success. You look at the numbers, 19.5 points per game, 8+ rebounds, 8+ dimes, and you're like, look, he's averaging almost a triple-double. He's done that for a long time, but he doesn't play in a winning style, and that really just prohibits the team from being consistent offensively because he never has a great feel for the game late. He chucks up ill-advised shots at times. He's somewhat reckless with the basketball. And that's really the Russell Westbrook dilemma. Fantastic athlete, one of the best that we've ever seen in NBA history, but also a very maddening player who I think the style of the NBA has kind of passed him by the last couple of years.
Look, there's no way to get around it, Chase. They screwed the pooch on this one. I don't know if this was a GM LeBron move. I don't know if this was a Pelinka move. I don't really care. The bottom line is not only did they screw it up, they knew pretty quickly, like you suggested, but there's nothing you can do about it. Really, the only trade potentially out there that could happen would be doing the John Wall swap, because John Wall, like Russell Westbrook, doesn't have a lot of trade value with his contract. So, and hell, at this point, I'd be willing to try it if I was the Lakers, if you could get the Rockets on board just to simply get another ingredient in there with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, because, look, we said it when it happened. Is it entertaining? Yes. I said this at the time, if LeBron wins a championship with Russell Westbrook, it'll be the most impressive one he's ever had, because we know Russ cannot be a winning player. That has been proven ever since Kevin Durant left his side in OKC. So they screwed it up, and quite frankly, I don't view the Lakers as a championship contender with the way things are currently construed, especially with Russell Westbrook. So if he gets traded, if anyone else gets traded, this is the time to subscribe, because NBA Trade SZN is here. Don't miss any of it. It's a whole lot of fun. We just crossed 275,000 subscribers, by the way. The road to 300 is underway. Be a part of this movement. Hit that big red button. We will continue to crank up our NBA coverage here on the channel. Okay, let's talk about a guy who's been in the trade rumors, the headlines for months now. Ben Simmons. Is Sacramento the fit for him? Sam Amick also on this one saying that interest is growing from Sacramento's side, Chase.
If you're Philadelphia, you have to make a deal trading away Ben Simmons because you have to maximize the prime years of Joel Embiid. Last month, he's been playing like an MVP. Nobody can dispute that. He's averaging more than 30 points per game, and he's doing things athletically that reminds you of a Giannis or an Anthony Davis, and he's really put the team on his back as the Sixers continue to climb up the Eastern Conference standings after what was a tough stretch of the season when he was on the COVID list and they had COVID and injury issues. So maximize the prime years of Joel Embiid and get him a co-star, because I think if you're able to do that, a 1A, 1B type of player, you can make a run in the wide-open Eastern Conference if you're Philly, because I think they have the necessary surrounding pieces for them to be a contender in the East. But if you don't trade away Ben Simmons and you rely on this roster as it stands right now, they're not good enough to compete with a Miami Heat, a Milwaukee Bucks, a Chicago Bulls, or a Brooklyn Nets. You need to move the needle just a bit. And Ben Simmons' value is higher than what people believe. It's not as high as it once was, so Daryl Morey isn't going to get that high-level all-star type of player back, but you can still get a very good player back for Ben Simmons, who is a really good defender. As for what Sam Amick had to say about the Kings' interest, it seemed as though a couple months they were out, now they're in. Amick saying this, quote, "While the Kings would prefer to keep building around De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, their strong appetite to improve means that no player is off the table in terms of potential talks. Wherever there's an impact player who can be had, in other words, they'll be exploring possibilities." And yes, as you likely wondered, that includes Philadelphia's Ben Simmons. While I reported in early September that a King-Simmons deal was looking very unlikely, that was long before team officials had a chance to see nearly half a season's worth of mostly subpar play. Sacramento's interest is definitely there. And if I'm Daryl Morey, I want to put myself in his shoes. You look at the Kings roster and you're like, okay, couple of pieces that can move the needle, couple of pieces who, if we brought in, could be building blocks alongside Joel Embiid, Steph Curry, Tobias Harris, and Tyrese Maxey. You get back De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. I think that's a good package for Philadelphia, and I think it's a pretty solid package for Sacramento because you have a player in Ben Simmons who's marketable, who you can build around, who does a lot of things at an elite level.
Yeah, I wonder if you're Philadelphia, if you would be able to get both. Maybe
yeah, that's my concern.
Maybe you would have to send back a who's the defensive guy? I'm drawing a complete.
Matisse Thybulle.
Maybe you'd have to send Thybulle back. I'd still probably do that if I'm Philadelphia.
Right.
Fox and Hield for Thybulle and Simmons seems like a pretty fair deal. I will say this. It would feel like poetic justice if Simmons had to go to Sacramento, because who wants to go to Sacramento? If there's any Kings fans out there, hey, that's it's not really about the city itself. It's about the organization not being able to figure things out. But I feel like that would be pretty hilarious justice for Ben Simmons, who has kind of been a fraud during this entire process, if we're being completely honest. All right, predict it for us. We've got about 5 weeks until the trade deadline is here. Will Ben Simmons get traded before the NBA trade deadline? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Let's hear it from you guys down in the comments section. Get a few shout-outs here, a little bump in the audience, and then we will jump into some Lakers rumors. Yeah, that was good. Jackie,
good job by you, Jack.
Jackie Cuts. Let's see. No from Downey's Burner. Portland says no. I hope so, man. If you're a Sixers fan, you want to be done with this. Like, if you don't get this done before the deadline, then you're talking about at least another 6 months, because the deadline's in February. Free agency 5 months. Free agency doesn't get going until about July 1st.
But most importantly and most notably, you're looking at a year that has no hope. Because without trading away Ben Simmons and getting an impact player back,
he's not enough by himself.
You can't rely on Embiid to just do it all for you. One, he's brittle. Two, team isn't good enough around him.
Yeah, totally agree. On that front, Portland says in, Clayton says in, Germany says, and so does Mike Austin. All right, let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. More on Russell Westbrook as well. Stay tuned for that. He's Chase Sr. I'm Harrison Graham. Any given Thursday, rolling along here to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. And we're going to start with a player that, well, he's polarizing, if nothing else, Chase. Russell Westbrook. Trade rumors continue to circulate. Sam Amick had the report that earlier in the season, they had covert interest in trying to ship him out. Didn't happen. Not enough interest materialized. Seems unlikely now, but I think the moral of the story here, Chase, is there seems to be some regret from LA's side of things to go out and acquire this guy in the first place.
Well, they saw the immediate results, or lack thereof, for Russell Westbrook. They saw that his style of play wasn't conducive to winning, and they were already trying to move him, according to Sam Amick, who's really plugged into a lot of organizations early in the year. So that goes to show you they already had regrets about making that trade. Look, everybody gets obsessed with the numbers that Russell Westbrook puts up. The eye test tells you that this guy just isn't a winning player. So that's really the problem for Los Angeles, and he's an already clunky player on a clunky roster fit for LA.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Here's what Amick had to say. Yes, Westbrook snapped his league-long streak of 407 consecutive games with at least one turnover in Tuesday night's win over Sacramento, and even registered a plus 17, though he missed 12 of 19 shots. And yes, the Lakers have won 4 of their last 5 games, but it's James's greatness and the emergence of minimum salary addition Malik Monk, who has been great, since he became a starter 5 games ago that has kept them afloat without Anthony Davis. All of which explains why sources say the Lakers showed some covert interest in discussing a possible Westbrook trade with rival executives earlier this season. A deal appears extremely unlikely before the February 15th. Did I say the 10th, 15th, 10th? Whatever.
It's the 10th.
It's the 10th.
Yeah.
Amick mistyped it. What do you want me to say? If only because this deal was once seen by so many untradeable is such a massive obstacle. But inside the Lakers, it seems there is some recognition that this hasn't gone as James and Davis had planned. See, this is why, and look, LeBron James deserves a lot of credit for who he is and recognizing talent, but this is why you can't put your player in charge of player personnel. I think that was a James move to bring in Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
And, you got to take it out of LeBron's hands. I'm not saying he shouldn't have input at all, but we all saw this coming.
Right.
You can't mesh Russ with LeBron and AD. He wants to be the best player on the team. He's not going to be that on a winning team. So now he's trying to play this third fiddle role, and it's not working, which was very predictable when it happened 5 months ago.
And with this, the Lakers are trying to cover up mistakes that they've made over the last year and change. They didn't trade for Kyle Lowry at the NBA trade deadline last year. It looked as though they were going to trade for Buddy Hield. Instead, at the last second, they pivot and they trade for Russell Westbrook instead of Buddy Hield, who would have been a much better fit because you look at the roster right now, they are bereft of shooting. And I already know some people are going to be in the comment section popping off saying, Chase, you're just a Russell Westbrook hater. No, to all of you chirping, I am a Russell Westbrook realist. I always keep it real here. I give him credit when credit is due, but the fact that he doesn't turn the basketball over for the first time in more than 400 games is the ultimate Russell Westbrook problem. The style of play is maddening. It's frustrating. It doesn't translate to wins, and it never has for Russell Westbrook. So while he's an exciting video game-like player, he's also not a winning player, and those are just the facts.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. And by the way, everybody, turnover-free Russ, where are the haters at? Yeah, he also only had 2 assists, so it's not like he went 10 assists, no turnovers. So it's all very fascinating. Deal Russell Westbrook before the deadline. What do you think? Type Y for yes, type in for no. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. You guys can reply right there. Okay, you look at the numbers, and again, it's never been a numbers problem, although the assist-to-turnover ratio continues to not be great. Less than a 2-to-1 ratio for what's supposed to be an all-star caliber point guard. But again, he's it's disappointing what he's done. He's made the triple-double kind of irrelevant in a lot of cases, which, that was a huge stat, and I still think it's a cool stat.
Jason Harrison, he has the record over Oscar Robertson. Who cares?
Yeah, who would you rather have, Oscar
I don't
or
need
Russ?
My guard rebounding the basketball.
Yeah,
I just don't.
Also, no one in their right minds thinks Russ is a better player than Oscar Robertson.
Yeah.
So that's pretty irrelevant. And look, the shooting, okay, the field goal percentage is fine. I mean, he's been fine there. He's taken less shots, which is something we talked about. He needs to take a lesser role. That's good, but he's still not doing enough to help this team send them over the top. If you undid that trade, I'm pretty sure, and just had the same role players, I think you'd have a better record.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
I also think there's this. If Russell Westbrook was playing in the early 2000s, he'd be marvelous, and people would be fawning over this guy. But a player like him, a player like my beloved favorite player of all time, Allen Iverson, would they be as effective in today's NBA as they were or could have been in prior years? I think the answer to that question is no, because the efficiency hasn't been there for Russ, wasn't there for AI, and the NBA is all about efficiency nowadays.
And the thing about Russ, too, is much of an athletic freak as he is, there's so many good athletes now, it's not that much of a game changer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every
Derrick
team,
Rose in his prime, better player than Russell Westbrook.
Every team has athletic freaks now,
Yeah.
so it's just, it was a bad trade. There's no doubt about it. Confidence level in the Lakers if they don't trade him. In terms of winning a championship, I'm going to go a 2.5, dude. I don't think this team wins the title the way it's currently constructed.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm going 2-3, and the only reason why
You got LeBron.
I'm at that level, LeBron James is playing like an MVP. Speaking of MVPs, this jacket is the real MVP, and we told you about it earlier on the week on the Lakers Report. Even better deal now. Was $110, Mitchell and Ness, now down to a little less than $83. You can get that deal only if you use that link down below, chatsports.com/LakersJacket. I'm going to put that link in the comment section as well as the description of this video.
So while a Russell Westbrook trade seems unlikely, is some sort of a trade coming? Brian Windhorst of ESPN.com saying that the Lakers looking to create more roster spots, and DeAndre Jordan, Kent Bazemore have been two players mentioned. Jordan, Chase, because LeBron during this stretch without AD has actually been playing the 5. So they've kind of gone to this smaller lineup, so even when AD comes back, he's going to play the 5 presumably, which means you don't really need DeAndre Jordan. Kent Bazemore, if they want to clear him out, for just to clear that spot, that could be an option as well. We already saw Rajon Rondo get shipped out, so the Lakers may be looking to make moves to try and clear up some roster spots in the coming weeks.
The other problem, too, with the whole roster construction for Los Angeles, because they're built to win right now and they're so top-heavy in terms of the salary cap, they don't have many tradable assets that are affordable contracts or player assets who other teams want in order for them to upgrade their roster.
Who wants DeAndre Jordan?
Who wants DeAndre Jordan, man? I wouldn't touch him. I think he's washed at this point. When he's played for Los Angeles, he's been pretty bad. And then other than that, the biggest trade asset you have on this team is an underperforming THT who's been a little bit better as compared to what he was earlier on in the year.
Yeah, and listen, that goes back again to last year. I mean, they were like, They're banking on THT's future. That's why they didn't trade for Kyle Lowry, and it's not like he's taken off. Kent Bazemore's just a guy at this point. I mean, these splits are brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, under 35% from the field and from 3, an okay defender, but when you shoot like that, you're not going to find minutes consistently.
He should get 10 minutes per game, and that's about it.
I mean, if that, man.
Yeah.
It's just like he's just like kind of a roster fill guy. He's like Jared Dudley now. I mean, he's a vet, but that's really all he brings to the table. Keep one of them. I mean, DJ, KB. I mean, I'd probably keep Bazemore because at least he's got some positional versatility. But
this is bleak, man.
If you're playing either of these guys real minutes, I mean, that's problematic.
Yeah, that's pretty bleak right there. Pick one to keep. DeAndre Jordan, Kent Bazemore. This roster would be good several years ago.
Type in for neither.
It ain't now. Yeah.
Man. Subscribe to the channel. We're not trying to be Debbie Downers. We're just keeping it real here on the Lakers Report. That's what we do. YouTube.com/LakersTV. We'll continue to have you guys covered leading up to the trade deadline. How about a positive? I like how this has trended. Stanley Johnson getting a second 10-day with L.A. And listen, a lot of people thought his career was done, but he's always had good defensive potential and some upside offensively. I thought he played pretty well the first 10-day. Maybe you clear out one of those spots and you keep Stanley for the rest of the season.
Yeah, when you watch the Lakers, they just look old. They look slow. They look stagnant on both ends of the floor. So when a player comes on the floor, like an Austin Reeves, a Stanley Johnson, a THT, and they have that injection of energy, you're like, wow, they're kind of popping off the screen a little bit. And I think that's what Stanley Johnson was able to bring to the table. Look, is it going to be a long-term fit for Los Angeles? Maybe not, but these numbers are actually pretty good, and he was very active. And sometimes throughout the course of a sluggish 82-game regular season, you need Energizer bunnies coming off the bench like a Stanley Johnson. And for him to prove himself like he did, a guy who looked like a bust and might be able to resurrect his career as a journeyman, good job by him, for real.
And it's why I've liked the move of Malik Monk to the starting lineup, because this team just needs youth and energy right now.
Yeah.
And I think Johnson's a guy that could come off the bench and give you 12 to 15 minutes per game. How about Kendrick Nunn? Can he have a big role when he returns? I think this was one of the signings you and I like quite a bit, because he was one of the rare younger signings who had a couple of really nice years with Miami. Frank Vogel saying he'll get a ton of minutes when he comes back. Maybe he can help bring you some more youth and some more upside to this lineup. Here's what Vogel had to say on what his role could look like. Quote, "Yeah, I have an idea, but it still really is all to be played out. Kendrick's going to get a ton of minutes when he gets back healthy. It's going to be at the expense of somebody else, maybe Russell Westbrook, at least for the time being, to see how he fits into our system alongside our stars, and all of that stuff will play out." Chase, I like the idea of getting Kendrick Nunn in there, because he's a walking bucket, man. I mean, he can go off for 30 on any given night.
Yeah, what did I just say? Like, the offense and defense, but we're talking about the offense in this regard, can just get stagnant. And a player like Kendrick Nunn can kind of get rid of some of that stagnation, if you will. And throughout his career with Miami, I understand the Heat have been a player development factory. They're doing it again this year. I mean, they have just random-ass players going off any given night, and it's actually crazy what Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra have been able to do. And I think Nunn was certainly a byproduct of that culture, but this guy can score the basketball regardless of where he is. Now, is he going to be the most efficient and effective playoff player? Maybe not, but when you need a bucket, he can come in off the bench, he can spot start as well, and he can give you that. He's still a young player too, and I do like his size as well, so I think he can give you a little bit on the offensive end of the floor, which is really what the Lakers need.
He can play the 1, he can play the 2, he can play off ball, on ball.
Handle the ball a little bit, put it on the deck.
I mean, last year, 48% from the field, 38 from 3. I mean, those are good splits, man. I think he could definitely have a role for this team. Which player should get less minutes? How about Russ, man?
Bazemore.
Well, definitely Bazemore. Jesus. I mean, get him out of there. He's just brutal. Which Lakers guard should get less minutes once Kendrick Nunn returns? All right, let's see. Trade Russ for a soda machine from Tom Downey's burner account.
That's right.
If that clears the $44 million, I'm in.
Yeah.
Dame for MVP. Not going to happen. The Blazers are terrible. Are they even in the playoff picture
I think
right
you
now?
meant to say DeMar.
Oh, DeMar.
Just spelled incorrectly.
Okay, I got you.
DeMar for MVP should be top 5.
Hey, top 3, I say, man.
Yeah.
Because of how good he's been in the clutch, too.
And how good the Bulls have been as a team.
Yeah.
Yep.
We got a super chat.
Tom Downey's burner account.
The Lakers roster will be fire in 2012.
That's kind of like what I said. Yeah,
Dude.
That's great.
You know,
with the grandpa emoji.
We
as
underplay.
Well.
You and I thought it would work. Like the depth pieces would be good, even though they were older. We might have been wrong, man. Now I think the main problem is Russ.
Yes.
But yeah, there's definitely, like you said, this team feels old. It feels real, and it looks old, and that's not a good sign whatsoever. What do we have coming up here? We talking about the Dubs next? All right, we can talk about the Warriors. They got some more youth, some more energy. It's always a pool party when Golden State's in the building.
No doubt about that.
That's going to be exciting to see how that plays out. Although the Mavs took care of business against them they weren't going to lose with Dirk in the building.
No.
I mean, retiring his jersey, that'd
be a crime.
Yeah, that'd be criminal. Just can't happen. So
it's weird that they did the ceremony after the game, though. Why did they do it after the game?
It was intriguing, but you know what? You want to know that you
get the crowd fired up for the game, right?
You know how you have garnered everyone's respect when you do a ceremony after a game and no one leaves.
Yeah.
No one left.
Nobody left.
No one is more respected as an athlete in the city of Dallas than Dirk.
Well, I was going to say
Take that to the bank.
Is there a city that loves an athlete more than Dirk? I mean, I come from Philly, so Allen Iverson in Philadelphia, right up there with like Dirk in Dallas. But the point there being, like, he is a legend.
Here's the thing. Dallas is a Cowboys town. But I would make a very strong argument that Dirk is the most beloved athlete to ever play in this city.
Wow.
I'm serious. No one has ever had anything bad to say about the guy.
That's pretty wild.
So it's he's worthy, man, and can't wait for that statue to go up outside the AAC. All right, let's talk about the Golden State Warriors. They lost last night, but they're still humming along just fine. He's Chase. I'm Harrison. Any given Thursday here on Chat Sports, ready to talk about the Golden State Warriors. And how about bringing a familiar face home? A bit of a surprise in some NBA news headlines over the last day or so. DeMarcus Cousins getting waived by the Milwaukee Bucks, but hey, I think he played pretty well, and obviously the Warriors know him pretty darn well.
Yeah, so he was basically signed because Brook Lopez went down with that back injury, and I thought DeMarcus Cousins was able to kind of revive his career for a little while with the Milwaukee Bucks. Looked healthy. He looked as spry as he's looked in a couple of years, and obviously doesn't have that explosion or athleticism or physicality that he once had when he was with the Sacramento Kings and New Orleans Pelicans because of the knee injuries and the Achilles issue. But the point here being is that Boogie Cousins displayed some ability, and I think if you're the Golden State Warriors, you take a look at that front court with Kevon Looney and James Wiseman. Would it be wise to bring him back? He understands the culture. He understands the system. He is well respected by the coaching staff, the front office, as well as all of the players on that roster, and I actually think that Boogie Cousins would be able to help Golden State because they've been struggling a little bit with more physical and beefy centers down low because Looney and Wiseman, who has yet to come back, the latter, aren't really those types of players. Now, you know DeMarcus Cousins played well when the general manager for the Milwaukee Bucks really praised
basically
him
an
for what he was
endorsement
able to
here.
do. It's an endorsement for another team, which I think is telling. Now, you're probably watching saying, well, if the Bucks liked him so much, why'd they let him go? They just wanted to free open a roster spot. John Horst on Boogie, we wouldn't have been able to get through this difficult stretch of the season as successfully as we did without DeMarcus Cousins. At the end of the day, we made a strategic decision to have an open roster spot, but there's nothing that would prevent us from partnering with DeMarcus again down the road. He was so good for us, and hopefully we helped him too. And helping him too is just helping him get back on an NBA roster. As for what he was able to do with the Bucks in those less than 20 games, 9 points per game, 6 rebounds, an assist per night, can give you a little bit defensively, holding it down on the low block, and he shot around 47% from the floor. So if you're asking Boogie to be the 20 and 10 guy that he once was, we're far, far past that. If you're asking him, though, to give you playoff minutes like he did with the Clippers, big minutes like he did with the Bucks, he can do that. And in a couple of games, he kind of went off. So I think the Dubs need to beef up that front court just a bit because they've struggled going up against big centers like a Rudy Gobert, like a DeAndre Ayton. Joel Embiid was in his bag in the second half in Philly. That's kind of the point of emphasis here if you're Golden State. And, hey, a familiar face back with the Dubs. You kind of like that, too.
And maybe he can finish what he started. The 1 year he was with Golden State, he got hurt before the playoffs.
Blew out that quad.
Maybe he's a part of a championship caliber team. It could be interesting. What do you guys think? Should the Warriors bring him back to the Bay? Type S for signed Boogie, type P for pass. I'd like to see it, man. I'd like to see Boogie Cousins head back out west.
Be kind of cool.
To the Golden State Warriors. Let us know your thoughts on this one. Now we transition from that to Steph Curry struggling. What is going on? Shooters struggle from time to time, but it is somewhat notable, Chase. Like some of the games recently, I mean, he was awful against Dallas last night.
He was terrible against Dallas. He was even worse the other night against the Miami Heat. Now, you're looking at that headline down below saying, worst stretch of Steph's career? Are you just trying to drum up drama? Steph Curry said it himself, as evidenced by the quotes we're about to show you here in just a few moments, that this is the worst stretch shooting-wise of his career. Against Dallas, 5 of 24. Against Miami, 8 of, I believe, not 41, but something close to that. 2 of 19 from 3. 25 combined points in 2 games for Steph Curry. That is so rare. And here's what he had to say about those shooting struggles. I haven't had a worse stretch over the course of the last 10 to 15-ish games. Usually there is a mechanics issue I can focus on, but now it's dealing with swarming defenses and dealing with the shots that I'm going to get. Now, I think at the end of the day, Steph Curry is going to be fine. He's had some of these cold stretches over the last couple of years, and he responds by then going on an absolute heater like that historic stretch he went on after the All-Star break. And I kind of want to hone in on that part of the quote where Steph Curry is talking about defenses swarming him. Good thing is that Klay Thompson is expected to return potentially on Sunday against the Cleveland Cavaliers, so that'll spread the floor a little bit. Opposing defenses, although they might not be as scared of Klay Thompson coming off those injuries, they're not going to be able to double-team Steph Curry as much. Steph Curry's going to be fine. He's on a cold spell right now, but if I'm going to trust anybody to turn it around, it's the best shooter in the history of basketball.
By the way, the 8 for 41 was combined, 3 of 17 against Miami.
There we go.
So yeah, he has been struggling, but guys, like, what are we just? This is the end of Steph. Of course not. He's had a couple of clunkers, and he's a little banged up. It sounds like, so he's going to sit out tonight. Been dealing with a quad injury. I'm not worried about Steph. Let him rest up for a game or two. He'll be dropping 40 pieces before we all know it. So we'll ask you guys. I'm at -10. I'm not worried about Steph Curry. 1 being not worried at all, 10 being very concerned. What is your level of concern? What, 1, 0? I mean, Steph's resume speaks for itself. He's having an MVP season. He's going to be just fine.
Have a deal we want to tell you about thanks to our friends at Fanatics, today's presenting sponsor. this Warriors shirt still on sale. Nike gear, really nice material, and you get to rock your squad and support your squad. If you plug in that link down below, chatsports.com/WarriorsT, that deal will apply. So this shirt was $35. It's now still on sale for $24. Get it right now. That link will be available in the comment section as well as the description. We know here on Golden State Warriors Today, people are tuned in from kind of every pocket of the United States and all across the world. Hey, Fanatics will hook you up no matter where you live.
Let's talk about Andrew Wiggins now, Chase, and could he be an all-star? Listen, what he's been able to do, and he is the case study example of sometimes you just need to be in a better environment, and he's been fantastic this year for Golden State.
He's been so good, and he's had years where his numbers have been better, but the impact that he's having on Golden State this year has been profound. And in terms of shooting splits, this is by far and away the best year of his career. Of course, that's a benefit of playing alongside Steph Curry and a very good passer in Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, and a bunch of other really good pieces on this Warriors roster. But you take a look at the numbers, 19 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, elite defensive work, 49% from the field, 43% from distance. And this conversation is one that a lot of people are having nationally and across the world. Andrew Wiggins, of course, an international player from Canada. He has let it be known by his play that he's legit. Andrew Wiggins, 4th in All-Star voting in the Western Conference front court. Only LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, and Paul George are ahead of him, and Paul George still dealing with that shoulder injury.
Yep.
That could pave the way for Andrew Wiggins to realistically be named to an all-star team, which is going to be big for him because so many people had labeled him as a bust. They labeled him as overrated. I always say this about Andrew Wiggins. He's overpaid, but he's underrated. Steve Kerr on Andrew Wiggins calling him the perfect fit. You have to have 5 guys who fit together. He's a perfect fit for us. And Harrison, we saw when the Warriors were able to go on that championship dynasty run that they had all these pieces that seamlessly fit together to play a style of beautiful basketball that had a lot of semblance, continuity, and camaraderie. And that's why I'm getting some vibes of this Warriors team being able to make another deep run. Andrew Wiggins has been a big part of that.
Look, he's been a grinder. He's worked hard. It was never fair when he got drafted to get the LeBron James comparisons. Then he gets traded right after he gets drafted.
Jordan.
I mean, it's unfair when we fans and media members do things like that. Look, will he ever live up to that number 1 pick billing? Probably not. But if he goes on and is a 2 or 3 time All-Star and averages 17, 18 points for his career and is a key contributor for winning teams, that's a pretty damn good career, and I think that is definitely worthwhile. And he's worked to get to this point. Like he could have mailed it in after 4 or 5 years into his career. Well, I got enough money. I'm just going to kind of, stick around as long as I can. He said, no, I want to be a really good player, and he's become one over the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, no question about that. And props go to him for working on his craft, getting in the lab, and having the best shooting year of his career. There have been times when the Warriors have either been shorthanded or he's just had to bail the squad out at the end of games, and his shot clocks where he stepped up and he's really come through.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So, hey, the question is, will he be an all-star? Spam AS if you think he should be an all-star. I think he should be in the mix. I mean, it's a good year for him to get in there with Kawhi not playing this year, obviously, and some other guys dealing with injuries. But I think there's a good opportunity. Spam AS if you think Andrew Wiggins should be an all-star. All right, let's see. Drink in hand. I wish I had a drink in my hand. Says, Lakers absolutely suck. Okay. Jaya Dang says AS. You think he should be an all-star?
I think he should be. I'd like to see it happen.
He's grinded, man. There's no doubt. DeMarcus Cousins to the Bulls from L2 Cloud. L2, one of my Bears Now followers, big Chicago sports fan. So, yeah, we'll see. Bulls are humming. Got some ASs coming in here. Coming up next for us is the latest on the Dallas Mavericks. Certainly a special night last night. Retiring Dirk's jersey, and then also they revealed a replica of what Dirk Nowitzki's statue will look like outside of the American Airlines Center. We'll talk about that. Plus, we'll also take a look at a potential blockbuster trade involving Kristaps Porzingis, so stay tuned for that as well. So coming up, we're going to get into some Dallas Mavericks basketball discussion. And even Thursday with you, NBA edition here, Harrison Graham and Chase Sr. We're going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. It was quite a night on Wednesday night at the American Airlines Center as Dirk Nowitzki had his jersey retired. It was a huge night, big win over the Warriors as well for the fourth straight victory for Dallas, who's kind of starting to get hot here. Dirk had his jersey retired, Chase, and equally as important as well, Mavs move up to 5th in the Western Conference. It was quite the spectacle. I would have loved to be there, but tickets were just unreal. I just couldn't afford to go. But it was a fun night, and the Mavs are starting to play some good ball.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused why they decided to honor Dirk Nowitzki after the game instead of prior, because I'm like, you want to get this fan base pumped up to honor a true Dallas legend. And I'd also make the argument no other city loves an athlete more than Dallas loves Dirk. But it didn't matter because
they all stayed.
The Mavericks didn't need to be energized, or the fan base didn't need to get up for that game because they played really flawless basketball. The biggest takeaway from that victory, Harrison, in addition to the Mavs seemingly finding their groove, their defensive performance.
Defense is good, man.
The Warriors have broken the 100-point mark in, I believe, almost every game this year, and then last night they really, really struggled. So that was one of the big points of emphasis for Jason Kidd when he took this job. We have to be better defensively. And so far this year, that's kind of been their calling card.
Yeah, the defense has not been the problem. The difference now over this last week or two is they're starting to make some shots, especially from role players. Because what was the story the first 2 months of the season? Tim Hardaway's having a down year shooting-wise. Reggie Bullock's been terrible. They're not getting consistent production from some of these guys off the bench, which led to discussion from you and me like, God, how bad does the Steph Curry trade continue to look for this team? Because they need guys who can knock down shots. Well, that's starting to happen. Josh Green is actually starting to be a productive player. Now, they're never going to live down passing on Desmond Bane, in my opinion, but you're getting the role players more involved in more consistent play. Sterling Brown had a nice month of December as well. Also, a player you're very familiar with, Chase, Jalen Brunson, who obviously started a bunch of games.
It's been awesome, man.
While Luka was gone. Well, they've kept him in the starting lineup since Luka returned, and that just has to be the case moving forward. Tim Hardaway is going to be that sixth man. JB in that starting backcourt with Luka. It's just working, man, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Mavs are finally starting to find some answers.
Isn't it funny that throughout the offseason, a lot of the buzz from the fan base was go after Goran Dragic, team him up with one of his good friends in Luka Doncic. Jalen Brunson is a very similar player to Goran Dragic. And in fact, this year, I think he's actually been better. And everybody gets obsessed with draft prospects about them being twitchy, really good athletes who are quick and have burst. Jalen Brunson plays the game in a cool, calm, and collected fashion, but he's also really smart with how he moves in a shifty type of way, and he's got that lower body strength where he's able to kind of use that craftiness to create some space for him with the jump shot, but also getting to the hoop as well. Jalen Brunson has been awesome, and I'll continue to say this because I grew up outside of Philly, grew up watching Villanova basketball, National Player of the Year at Nova, 2 championships. He was fabulous, and the fact that he went in the second round will always be a crime.
Look, Jalen Brunson's going to get paid this offseason. I mean, I think he might make $15-16 million a year because he's been that good and he's gotten better every year. And the thing about JB is he's always in control. I mean, he's always in control with what's going on the floor. He's not reckless at all. And the fact that the Mavs got Luka and Brunson in the same draft, I mean, it's one of the better 2-player drafts, first, second round, that you'll ever see in the last 15 or 20 years. But to kind of circle back to what this team, you called it their calling card, the defense, man. 3rd in points allowed, 6th in overall rating, middle of the pack in, shots, field goal percentage 3-point there. But end of the day, it's about points.
Doesn't matter. It's about points.
It's about points. I say this with NFL all the time.
Right.
Oh, well, Patriots are 23rd in total defense. Yeah, they're always top 10 in scoring defense because they get stops in the red zone. And the Mavs are locking down when they have to, and they're not giving up a ton of points. And if they can continue to improve offensively, Luka keeps getting back into shape. It seems like his wind is getting back a little bit here. Maybe this team makes a strong push in the second half of the season. Quick question here. Who's the Mavs' 3rd best player? Luka, KP, because Porzingis has had a good year. I think it's got to be JB at this point.
Yeah, Brunson? It's Brunson. Hardaway is very important to what they do, But does he have an all-around impact like a Brunson? That's a good debate
Not
right
this year.
there.
Maybe last year. Not this year.
He's been struggling this year, yeah.
No doubt about it. We have a deal for you guys. This Mavs hoodie, 30% off. It was initially over $100. Right now it's like $80. Pretty quality deal for you guys. Actually, no, this one's only like $65 right now. So it's a really good deal. Go to chatsports.com/Mavs hoodie. Get this piece for 30% off. It's getting cold here in Dallas, believe me. That link will be in the comments. It'll be in the description. Go ahead and get a Mavericks hoodie today by going to chatsports.com/Mavs hoodie. All right. How about trading for Anthony Davis?
Oh, boy.
SI.com flirted with a Porzingis for Anthony Davis blockbuster trade idea. And look, I think it's fair to say, Chase, for the last year and a half, AD's been a bit of a disappointment with the Lakers, and we talk about it on our Lakers channel all the time. Like, is LA going to shake things up? Are they going to make some big move to try and mix it up out there? Well, maybe AD to Dallas could be a good fit for Luka Doncic. Obviously, when AD's engaged, he's very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, look, Anthony Davis is a generational player. He's just often way too injured, and that's the problem with also Kristaps Porzingis. But there's no question that at the end of the day, Anthony Davis is the far better player than Kristaps Porzingis. Now, this trade would be able to work in terms of the salary cap because both of these guys are on those max contracts. If the Los Angeles Lakers pulled the trigger on this deal, they'd be insane. I mean, Laker Nation is always talking about Anthony Davis not being available enough. Well, try Kristaps Porzingis, who is a good player when he's available, but he's not available enough. And look, if he didn't suffer that torn ACL when he was with the Knicks, I think you're talking about a different player who could have been a unicorn in the NBA. Unfortunately, since then, he hasn't been the same guy. And I've ripped on Kristaps Porzingis. I'm sorry, MFFLs. I just like to keep it real. But look, there's no way that this trade is going to happen. There's just no way.
I'm with you. I don't see it happening. You can't trust KP if you're the Lakers. I will say, though, Porzingis deserves a lot of credit for how he's handled this year. Like, last year did not end smoothly. Rick Carlisle just put him in the corner in that Clippers series and basically said, just stand over there and try to draw some attention. The guy's having a good year. 20 and a half, 8 boards, 45% for the most part. He's been able to get out there. Now he's on the COVID list right now, but that's not an injury-related thing. But it's which injury-prone big man do you trust more? I think the answer has to be Anthony Davis. Like, the trade idea we showed you guys, I mean, it would be...
He's been a Hall of Famer. Kristaps Porzingis
exactly.
has not been. That's kind of the conversation.
And that's why if you were going to pull it off, it would have to be KP, your first-round pick in 2025, because you don't have one until then, and then probably more picks. And even then, the Lakers are like, well, we're in win-now mode, so why do we care about your 2025 first-round pick?
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I don't think it's going to happen. And why would the Lakers punt on AD at this point? If anything, they need to try and move Russ, which is something we've talked about quite a bit as well.
Yeah, move Russell Westbrook, keep Anthony Davis, and that Anthony Davis-LeBron tandem helped you win a championship in the bubble back a couple of years ago. And last year, if AD doesn't get hurt in that first-round series against the Suns, I think they could have won the title realistically.
Yeah,
they were just way too banged up at that point.
It is fascinating that the Mavs and the Lakers, if we can pull those standings back up, are basically neck and neck. I mean, both have kind of disappointed, especially LA. The Mavs, like we mentioned, starting to turn a corner here, have won 4 straight games. And, those top 4 seeds have kind of separated in the West with Golden State, Phoenix, Utah, and even Memphis, 25 and 14. But the 5 seed, 4 seed could be up for grabs later in the season, so Dallas still an opportunity if they make some moves to move up in the standings. What would you guys do? I would certainly do it. Would you trade KP and picks for AD?
It ain't happening.
That T for trade, K for keep. Don't think it's going to happen, but hey, you got to love NBA trade rumor season, baby. That's why we're going to have you guys covered. Subscribe to Dallas Mavericks today, youtube.com/MavsTV. All right, T for trade, K for keep. Someone said, Manuel says Porzingis and Luka for Davis, right? No. The Mavs, Luka is so much more valuable than Anthony Davis in a trade.
Yeah.
That's not even close. Luka might, even though he's been a little disappointing this year, he's still averaging like 25, 8, and 8. We're like, Luka, he's overweight. Yeah, it's 25, 8, and 8 still. He's arguably the most untradeable player in the league currently. I don't know if he's number 1, but he's for sure in the top 3 or 4. So I don't think the Mavs would trade Luka for LeBron. considering the age difference.
Yeah, the age difference there.
So, we got a super chat. Oh, yeah. Keep not even close. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't see it happening, but hey, I love mock trades. Love mock trades. Mavs finished 4th from Luke. Clayton says keep. Maybe they throw in LeBron from Tool Worker. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Here's Tom Downey's burner again. Is Westbrook the Chris Davis of the NBA?
It's kind of a good one. See, the production for Russ has been better than Davis.
Well, the years
after
Davis,
that 50 home run season,
dude,
and after he signed that contract,
he had a few
terrible.
good years, dude.
Yeah, so did Russ though.
Yeah, and
but
Russ
Chris
has done
Davis
it for a lot
fell off
longer.
the cliff, whereas Russ is still
at
putting
least
up numbers.
decent. Chris basically had to retire because of how bad he was.
Yeah.
So for a short period of time, yes, I would say that's a fair analogy there. All right, we talking about the Celtics next? Is that where we're going to? All right, let's talk about
first vid in 2 weeks.
Talk about the C's. We'll SEO this piece. No big deal. Let's talk about Boston. Some Boston Celtics news and rumors coming your way from the AGT squad. Harrison and Chase with you. Producer Jack Lotteray, the Boston sports fan as well, rocking with us. Let's talk about some trade rumors. How about Terrence Ross, Chase, a player who was the only Magic player that didn't get dealt last year at the deadline. It was the classic Will Smith meme where he returns home and there's nothing in the house because Vucevic and all his boys got traded. Well, he's still in Orlando, but many believe he will be on the trade block this year because Orlando's continuing to rebuild. He is under contract through next year, by the way, for only like $11 million, a pretty team-friendly contract, so he's got some value. Having a bit of a down year, but some 3-and-D upside for a Boston team that we both feel needs to make some kind of move.
I think they just need to shake it up just a bit. Obviously, to epic proportions, it would be trading away Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. I don't think we've arrived at that scenario
Especially
just yet, although
Ross.
It's starting to get a little bit more hairy. I know some Celtics fans are scarred from an NBA trade deadline trade with the Magic last year for Evan Fournier, who really was just okay for Boston. He's been a disaster for the New York Knicks, so thankfully Boston didn't re-sign him. Ross, for what his contract is, him being affordable, the player that he is, the value that he has, and the fact that he's under contract this year and next year would be a nice little spark for the Boston Celtics, and I don't think you'd need to give up all that much for Terrence Ross. He's averaging around 12 points per game. He's a solid player, not a great player, and he's a guy for the Orlando Magic who I think his numbers are inflated just a bit because the Orlando Magic are just a bad squad, but intangibles, effort, energy, athleticism, a little bit of positional versatility. I wouldn't hate it for Boston depending on what you're giving up. And if you only have to part ways with like a 7th, 8th, 9th guy off the bench or maybe one of the underperforming young players, wouldn't be a bad move for Boston to try to move the needle just a little bit and insert some energy in what has been a pretty stagnant Celtics team this year.
Yeah, Ross's splits are a little down this year as a shooter. His prior 2 years averaged a few more points, was more efficient, especially from three. But we've kind of seen that throughout the NBA. A lot of guys are having to adjust to the new ball, the new rules this year. Maybe that's impacted Ross just a little bit. Maybe the fact that he's on arguably the worst team in the NBA has impacted his play as well. We see that especially with guys who don't want to be on current teams, and I think that probably applies to a guy like Terrence Ross, so an opportunity to play in Boston could be something welcomed for him. What do you guys think? Should the Celtics trade for Terrence Ross, type T for trade, type P for pass? I don't know if this is the move I'd make, but I'm doing something if I'm Brad Stevens. This is a big trade deadline for him in his first year as a president of basketball operations, so that'll be very fascinating to watch. How about bringing in DeMarcus Cousins, Chase, who got cut, got let go by Milwaukee in a bit of a surprising move as he was playing fairly well for the Bucks, a team certainly contending in the East. In his freedom now, in his Cantor freedom, he's just been okay this year off the bench. I think you could argue Cousins could give you similar production, especially offensively, than what Cantor Freedom has.
Yeah, it comes down to this. Like, do you want a better, bulkier big man than Enes Freedom? And is that better big man DeMarcus Cousins? Now, you have the high flyer, uber athlete in Robert Williams. You have the floor spacer with some positional versatility in an Al Horford, who's still at this point wonderful basketball IQ, great defensive player, can stretch the floor more so than any other big man on this roster. And Freedom really has just been okay. But you're looking at DeMarcus Cousins and you're like, this guy's been bad for so long. In fact, I thought he was able to kind of resurrect his career to a certain degree. He's pretty good in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he wasn't bad in Milwaukee at all. I thought he flashed a bit for the Clippers in the playoffs last year. I mean, Ty Lue turns to him after not playing for a while in a couple of those games in the conference finals, and he played pretty well overall. I mean, listen, this is not the guy who at one point might have been on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Those days are behind him, too many injuries. But can he be a guy that gives you 8 to 12 points and 5 or 6 boards in 20 minutes a game? I think it's possible. 47% from the field, that's the most efficient he's been in years, by the way. So, and by the way, he hasn't had a notable injury in a couple years now. So, all of a sudden, again, the injuries have, hindered him in terms of, explosiveness, how efficient he can be, but they aren't flaring up again, which is a good thing.
That's a good thing.
So, again, if you're a Boston fan, we're not sitting here saying, man, you get Boogie Cousins, you're going to make a jump into the top 3 or 4 in the East. But can he be a guy that eats some minutes? Maybe he's an upgrade over a couple of other players. I at least think that's something worth exploring if you are the Boston Celtics, who kind of just continue to stay stuck in neutral, hovering around 500 almost midway through the season. Name a player the Celtics should sign or trade for before the trade deadline. Got about 5 weeks until then. Any names that jump out to you that you'd like to see Boston go after?
Bradley Beal, Damian
swinging,
Lillard.
Swinging big?
I'd be swinging big, but you'd have to part with one of your marquee superstars.
I think that's the internal battle right now with Boston. Do they go get a number 3, number 4 type, or do they trade one of their big guns?
And the other thing, too, if you don't want to trade one of your marquee players for another marquee superstar, those middle-tier guys, who do you have on the team that can move the needle? Is it Dennis Schroeder, who we're about to talk about? Could it be a Peyton Pritchard or Robert Williams and Aaron Nesmith, Romeo Langford? Those guys just don't move.
Marcus Smart
the
is
needle
overpaid.
Marcus Smart overpaid.
Let's talk Schroeder, and I think he could be that guy because he's been very productive and he's cheap.
Yep.
Teams like cheap, productive players, and that is what Dennis Schroeder has been this year. I mean, you could argue he's been their 3rd most consistent player after their top 2 guys in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So there is some thought maybe that Schroeder could be a guy that gets moved in some kind of facilitation to help bring back a good player. I mean, he's not going to get you a big-time player, but if you're thinking, okay, he's probably going to get some money this offseason, we're going to lose him anyway, why not trade him, get something in here, maybe get a guy who's under contract beyond this season to help out the rest of your roster. Look, could you get a late first-round pick, too? If you don't want to get a piece, dude, 15, 16 points. Teams do not value late first-round picks.
No,
in the
they
NBA.
don't.
They really don't. I mean,
they don't.
Look, every team LeBron is on, they trade their first-round picks. I mean, it's just how it goes. You don't think LeBron would like Schroeder right now instead of Russell Westbrook?
Yeah.
I promise you he would. Teams out there would give you something for Dennis Schroeder. I really do think that.
Especially a team out there that is kind of on the cusp of going from being a good team to a great team that can actually contend for a championship. And Schroeder does have some value at that contract. He does not have value if you were still on, or if he ended up signing, rather, that $84 million contract with the Los Angeles Lakers. This is what I know about the Celtics, and I've watched them a lot this year. They're so up and down. They're so Jekyll and Hyde. They're so inconsistent. They just aren't right. Yeah. And they need to make a move to change things up just a bit. We're talking about Boston here. We're talking about 17 titles. We're talking about some of the all-time greats. We're talking about one of the best franchises in the entire world of professional sports. And for them to be floating around 500 now the last 2 years, it is not good enough.
The mistake the Celtics made this offseason was thinking that forcing Danny Ainge into retirement, promoting Brad Stevens to president of basketball ops, and hiring a new coach
it's going to change everything.
Would fix things. Look, coaching matters. Front offices matter. They don't matter as much in the NBA, though, as they do in the NFL. There's 5 players on the court. It's a players' league. You got to have guys. And they have 2. But that's kind of it, man. They just don't have the right nucleus of players. I'm not going to sit here and question Ime Udoka's coaching ability. I think the guy can coach. I just don't think they have the roster, man.
Yeah.
I think that's – you watch them play, it's like this team is discombobulated. They don't play with any rhythm whatsoever. It just becomes the Tatum ISO or the Brown ISO
That's
show.
it.
I mean, that's it. And – when you have even like you think about those Warriors teams, Steph, KD, Clay, like they're moving the ball, man, and this team it just doesn't do that. Like you said, they're just off. I don't know what the problem is at the end of the day, but we'll continue to bring you some more Celtics news and rumors. We haven't had as many videos recently, holiday season, but with the trade deadline just over a month away, I can promise you this.
Producer Jack going to be churning out videos.
We will have you guys cover with some more
Pressure's
videos.
On you,
Producer Jack is taking it on as a challenge, so slide in his DMs at Jack Lotteret. If you can spell it, I'll give you $1. YouTube.com/CelticsTV. All right. Appreciate all the NBA talk. Let's talk some college football. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Talk some CFB. I mean, somebody had to do it on this channel.
Yeah.
Might as well have been us. Someone had to bring it back. National championship game 3-4 days away, Monday night.
Should
Georgia,
I change this title?
Bama. Who's going to win it? Yeah, if you want to, go
okay.
for it. I'll get some shout-outs here. Who's going to win it all? Type UGA for Georgia. Type Bama for Alabama. What you thinking? Who's going to win the national championship? Bama from Shy Day. Bama all the way, baby, from Kareem. We got Bama from, is that an L? His username's just an L. Georgia from Kegs Lives. We got Patrick saying Bama. Bama, take the money line, boys. I do like Bama money line as an underdog. That feels too good to be true. That's a good call. Like, I'm tempted to
Bama money line.
I'm tempted to lay 50 on Bama money line.
I'm with you.
I might do it. You in?
Yeah.
I can't be scared. Yeah, I'm gassing Bama. We're canceling this show. I'm kidding. We're gonna go. I am gonna go bet on this game though.
Give me a few seconds here, Jack.
It's over. Let's see. Bama 100%. San Diego State. Tatum and Brown for Boban and Dirk. Okay. Clayton says Bama, UGA from Alex. We'll see what shakes. We'll see what shakes at the end of the day. Someone said, you'll find this one interesting, Chase. How about Marcus Smart and Dennis Schroeder for Ben Simmons?
Marcus Smart, Dennis Schroeder.
That's not
That's
enough.
a disaster.
You can't be doing that. You can't be doing that.
Jack, you would love
Jack,
Ben
you
Simmons
would take
in exchange
Ben Simmons
for those
for that
two
trade.
guys.
Don't
Come on
even.
now.
Simmons is a fraud, but if you can get him for Schroeder and Smart, that's a no-brainer.
That's your next Celtics vid, Jack.
Yeah. YouTube commenters rumors. All right, we appreciate it. You ready to go over there?
A rumor. Yeah.
You ready to go?
Yep.
All right.
Title change.
Jim Harbaugh could be heading to the NFL. So if he does, we're going to break down some candidates that could replace him at Michigan. You're watching Any Given Thursday by Chat Sports. Harrison Graham and Chase Sr. We're going to talk a little college football. Jim Harbaugh chatter, conversation, rumors that he could be heading to the NFL if the right opportunity arises. Raiders, Bears, a couple of teams that are interested. So, in just a few moments, we'll take a look at 10 candidates that could replace him if he leaves. Nothing has happened up to this point. But let's talk about the latest round of Harbaugh. Bruce Feldman has doubled down at this point, Chase, saying that he might be tempted to jump back in the NFL. He's interested in the Raiders opening. He's interested in the Chicago Bears opening as well. Now, obviously, the timing is interesting because this is the best year he's had at Michigan. He finally beats Ohio State. He finally wins the Big Ten. He finally gets to the college football playoff. He's been 61-24 in 7 seasons at Michigan. So does this make sense? Is it time to jump back into the NFL if you're Jim Harbaugh?
It kind of depends on how you want to look at this. Is this his agent trying to get him more money after he signed that extension worth around $4 million per year?
Last I heard, he doesn't have an agent.
So
who's doing this?
But is he trying to get more money and negotiate that? That's one side.
Yes.
The other side is he done with the constant change and fluidity of college football? And for me, he's always felt like more of an NFL guy because there's more structure at the NFL level. Now, if I were an NFL owner, an NFL general manager, I would immediately make Jim Harbaugh my number 1 candidate. Why is that? For a couple of reasons. First, they make it to the NFC Championship game. Year 2, they go to the Super Bowl. Then he has to take over for Brady Hoke, and he's able to bring Michigan back to national relevance. He's a face of a program. He's a very marketable face. like I mentioned, he always wins. He's a program builder and a culture changer. So for those reasons, I would make Jim Harbaugh my most sought-after NFL head coaching candidate if these rumors are true.
And when it pertains to Michigan, I could see him leaving because there's two sides of the token. One, why would he leave when he finally has it rolling at Michigan? But I would also say, coming off last year, there was a lot of stress there. They went 2-4. He didn't look happy on the sidelines. Maybe he's satisfied saying, hey, I came here to bring Michigan back. I got us back to on top of the Big Ten. I'm going back to the NFL.
Yeah, finally beat Ohio State.
I honestly think after 4, 5, 6 years, he's like, well, I can't leave until I beat the damn Buckeyes.
Right.
Well, he's done it now. He beat them. He got them to the playoffs. Sure, he would have liked to win a national championship, but it's pretty damn hard to do that. So I could see him leaving and capitalizing on his own momentum into an NFL job which is, like you said, more of a structured sport than college football. So we'll ask you guys this, pinned comment on today's video. Will Jim Harbaugh leave for the NFL? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Get your votes in, and then after this YouTube ad break, we'll break down 10 candidates to replace him in Ann Arbor. All right, let's get to some potential replacements for Jim Harbaugh. This is just, there's nothing reported on this. This is just me saying, how about Dabo, right?
Yeah.
AD leaves. OC's gone. DC's gone. Probably their worst recruiting class in the last 5 years.
Yep.
If you're ever going to leave, if you're Dabo, unless you're just waiting for the Alabama job, which has been the rumor forever, why not now? Like, if Michigan opens up and they're interested and they'll pay you $8, $9, $10 million a year, it's pretty appealing.
I'd like it too, because in a down year, when everything went against Dabo Swinney and Clemson, guy still won 10 games.
The guy's
really is crazy. He's a machine, and I think he'd be an excellent replacement.
And you could argue it would be an upgrade from
Yep.
Harbaugh. You could at least argue it.
Maybe.
How about Joe Brady at number 9? His shine has certainly worn off a bit. I think he needs to prove himself as a coordinator again before he's in the mix for a major NFL or college head coaching job, but maybe he's more of a fallback candidate if things don't work well. I still believe in him as an offensive mind, but the Panthers stint was not very impressive.
It wasn't good, and they didn't have good quarterback play, and I think that's a big part of it. I think for Joe Brady, he kind of has to rehab his image just a bit as an offensive mind who has lost some of that luster. Go to a major college football program as an OC and show you were the wonder kid a couple of years ago who helped LSU win a national title.
We got a few internal candidates, and our man James Yoder, boss man, who runs our Michigan football report, talked about some of these guys as well. Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator, has a good relationship with the Harbaugh family. Maybe that could be an endorsement from Jim if he walked outside the door. Could be pretty interesting there. I'll put him at number 8. This has only been his first year at Michigan, though. So, I mean, you'd be taking a big leap of faith. He's a young guy as well, but a name to keep in mind. And there will be a couple other internal guys we'll take a look at as well. Subscribe to Chat Sports because Chase and I are the content daddies. And just when you think college football coverage is over, we're back with more because that's what we do. 100% free here on this channel. News, rumors, coaching hot boards like this one, and a whole lot more. Subscribe. It's free. Just hit that big red button. Another internal guy, Mike Hart, who was a legendary player at Michigan in the early mid-2000s at running back, comes back to Ann Arbor. He's the running backs coach this year. He's a players guy. He fits that bill as a players coach. Chase, I think he would be able to relate to these players. I think he'd be a guy kind of similar to Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. If Harbaugh left, I think you would see some rallying from the players to a guy like Mike Hart. So I do think that would be a possibility. Plus, I've seen a couple of reports that, hey, if Harbaugh does bolt, do not be surprised if they consider promoting Mike Hart.
Wouldn't it kind of be similar to the Notre Dame situation with Marcus Freeman? I mean, Brian Kelly leaves, and you saw the reaction of the team, the players on that roster.
They wanted Freeman.
Once Marcus Freeman was named head coach and then Tommy Rees stays as OC, they rallied around those young guys.
Obviously, Josh Gaddis is someone you'd have to consider as well.
Yeah,
maybe he wouldn't get quite the rally from the players, but he's been there for a few years. He was able to help adapt this offense this year to the personnel. Which
named
is,
best coordinator in the nation.
Yeah, Broyles Award winner. So I think those three guys, if they're going to go internal, those are the names to keep an eye on if you're a Michigan fan. Should Michigan make an internal hire? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. I don't think it'd be a terrible idea, but I do think there's more candidates you should take a look at, and we'll certainly break those down in just a moment. At number 5, Lane Kiffin. I don't know if Ann Arbor is the right fit for him and his personality, But if you want to jumpstart this offense, I think him with a guy like J.J. McCarthy and his skill set as a dual-threat player, a runner, and a strong-arm quarterback could be fascinating. Does Lane want to leave Ole Miss right now? I don't know, but there's no doubt Michigan's a better job.
So what, Lane's making around $8 million per year?
Have to pay.
At Ole Miss?
You'd have to pay.
You got to pony up and pay more money than you're paying Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of money, no doubt about it. BetUS is the place to go to bet on the national championship game. So go to chatsports.com/bet, promo code chat125. When you put down $100, you're going to get $125 for free. That is simple math. And if you're a sports betting beginner, it gives you that extra money to play with and kind of, figure out what type of bets you like making. If you want to go bet on the national title, I think there's good value. Go bet on Alabama money line. Sure, Georgia could beat Bama in the rematch, but the fact that they're favorites is very, very puzzling to me, considering they lost by 17 in the SEC.
We're doubting Nick
title
Saban,
game.
really?
Yeah,
it's
all very strange. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code chat125. How about Mark Stoops, Chase? And I know he got that cushy contract extension, and look, Kentucky would never fire him unless they were just awful for like 5 straight years. I mean, it's in his contract now that if they simply make a bowl game, he gets a 1-year extension every year.
That's wild.
I mean, that's it. And he's already under contract through 27.
Yeah.
So if they go 6-6 next year, it's through 28. 6-6, 29. Like, he has maybe the most comfortable job in America because he's at a school that, sure, he's made them care about football, but it's always going to be basketball there. But if Michigan's like, hey, it's Michigan, you want to come or not? He's done a hell of a job at Kentucky, and now he's starting to recruit at a very high level as well.
No,
Top
he
12
is.
recruiting class.
He's done a tremendous job, and defensively, he's been terrific. Regionally, though, I don't know if it's as good as a fit as maybe Matt Campbell of Iowa State. Matt Campbell of Iowa State coming in at number 3. This is a name that really intrigues me. And another guy whose name has kind of lost some of that appeal, but as a program builder, as a culture guy, as a guy who can develop talent over time and gets the best out of that talent, Matt Campbell's a stud.
Yeah, I'm
Think about how bad Iowa State was before Matt Campbell.
The point I'm trying to make is I don't want to overvalue them struggling a bit this year. They went 7-6. They lost like 5 of those games by
very close.
1 score.
Against some good teams.
I mean,
too.
hell, Clemson was red hot going into the postseason. They almost beat them in the bowl game. I mean, Iowa State was competitive in all their games this year. They just fell short. So I think Matt Campbell is still a really good candidate. If this happened a year ago, if Harbaugh got fired or moved on after that disappointing 2020 season, I think Campbell would have been their top target. So I don't think if you're a Michigan, if you're a part of that athletic department, if you're the AD, you should say, oh, well, we can't even consider him. I firmly disagree with that. I think he would be one of their top candidates.
Yeah, no, I agree. And number 2, I think he's my favorite name on this list, actually. Like, we have to celebrate what Bill O'Brien has been able to do strictly as just a football coach. And we have to separate who Bill O'Brien is as a football coach from him being a football coach and a general manager.
Yeah.
So Bill O'Brien, the general manager, awful. Made a bunch of really bad deals. That DeAndre Hopkins trade
It's one of the most unforgivable
for David Johnson,
trades.
one of the most unforgivable and one of the worst in the history of the NFL. But the guy can coach. He's been doing a great job as an OC. He's helped develop quarterbacks at every single level that he's been at. He maximized Christian Hackenberg, which is crazy.
You got Christian Hackenberg
With Bryce
drafted.
Young, he helped him win a Heisman Trophy. And as a head coach, he won 9 or more games in 5 of 6 seasons with the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, he
Give
can
him his
coach.
flowers.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will get some head coach buzz very, very soon. If not, maybe if this or another job opens up this offseason. All right, number 1, I think Luke Fickell has to be the top guy. Regionally, it makes sense.
It does.
He's a hell of a coach. He got
Ohio State guy goes to Michigan, too?
Hey, breaks. Well, Ohio State kind of screwed him,
That'd
man,
be
if we're being
phenomenal.
honest.
Yeah.
But I think this makes a lot of sense. I think any of these top 3, 4, 5 guys would be good. But I think Fickell just he knows the region. He took Cincinnati to the college football playoff and was equally as competitive.
3 quarters they were tough, at least in that game.
Honestly, Bryce Young had probably his worst game in a while.
Secondary impressed me a lot.
Against Cincinnati. I mean, Luke Fickell is a hell of a coach, and you start giving him 4 and 5 stars to work with rather than just 3 and a couple 4 stars, then yeah, I mean, I think he can get a program humming very quickly.
Yeah.
Who will be the Michigan head coach in 2022? And yes, the answer could easily still be Jim Harbaugh. So you can type Jim Harbaugh, but maybe you think it's someone else. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments. get a few shout-outs here. Then we're actually going to do the same video for Ohio State. There's been some more, not nearly as well-reported about Ryan Day, but there's been chatter for a couple months now that he could be intrigued by the NFL. What if the Bears want to team him up with Justin Fields? So that certainly could be intriguing. So we're going to do the same thing for Ohio State. Pete Carroll to Michigan from Rashard Lee.
That's hilarious.
I don't think so. I don't think he can recapture that USC magic in Ann Arbor. Clayton says Harbaugh. Gut feeling. Harbaugh makes the jump.
I think he stays, actually.
You think he stays?
Yeah, I think he stays.
All right.
I don't know. I won't be surprised either way, though.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Ryan Day leaves, which is what we're about to talk about. But I could see Harbaugh doing it, man. I truly think it's pretty 50-50. We'll see what happens. All right, let's talk about Ohio State, and then we're going to wrap this show up. Harrison Graham and Shea Sr., a.k.a. the Content Daddies here at Chat Sports, ready to break down 10 potential replacements for Ryan Day at Ohio State. If he leaves, before you freak out in the comments, there's no crazy report. There's no, hardcore reports that he's going to leave Ohio State for the NFL, but there's some chatter, some deep rumors that, hey, he could be intrigued for the National Football League. So let's explore it, and then we'll take a look at 10 potential replacements for the Buckeyes if it happens. Again, big if there, obviously. I mentioned some chatter that Day could leave for the NFL. I think the Bears would be a job that could make sense since obviously Justin Fields is their young quarterback. And look, Ohio State had a good year but didn't win the Big Ten. Maybe he feels, okay, if the NFL comes calling, this could be an opportunity. Although it's funny how some of these programs, they have down years. He still goes 11-2, Chase, and wins a Rose Bowl, an epic Rose Bowl, by the way. Seems unlikely, but weirder things have happened. I mean, I could see NFL teams calling for Ryan Day.
I don't see why you wouldn't. This guy's offense every single year is a juggernaut, and he's really developed quarterbacks to the point where they're Heisman Trophy finalists, candidates, and in the running to win that award every year. And it seems as though you turn on the TV, and every time Ohio State is playing, they're scoring 30, 40 points per game. And that goes everything in line with where the NFL game is trending right now. So Ryan Day, as an NFL head coach, I think it'd work well because of his offensive scheme, his adaptability, his development of quarterbacks, and he previously coached in the NFL. He was a quarterback coach under Chip Kelly with the Philadelphia Eagles, same position with the San Francisco 49ers as well. He's got a cushy job at Ohio State making $7.5 million per year, but sometimes people who are at the best of their craft are seeking challenges, and maybe he's not challenged by the college game anymore.
And you mentioned development of quarterbacks. I would argue what he did with C.J. Stroud this year might be his best. C.J. Stroud looked like a guy that should have been benched early in the year.
Biggest in-season jump among any quarterback I've really seen recently.
By the end of the year, he was maybe the best quarterback in the country. Outside
the
of
Rose
maybe
Bowl
Bryce
throws that he was making, he was fitting footballs into keyholes. Producer Jack just let out that's what we were all doing when he was dropping those dimes to Smith and Jigba.
So we're Buckeye fans on that one. And by the way, that's without the top two, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, who are preparing for the NFL. Ryan Day is a hell of a coach. The question is, will he leave Ohio State? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. I don't think so, but I do think NFL teams will be interested in him from here on out. Be prepared as an Ohio State fan. Ryan Day is a guy that teams will come calling for because his offense is so innovative, and that is what the NFL is looking for. This will be the pinned comment on today's video, so answer it, and then after the YouTube ad break, we'll get into 10 potential replacements. All right, 10 replacements for Ryan Day if he leaves Ohio State again. Big if. We have to include him. Urban Meyer, who got fired from the Jags. I don't even think Ohio State would do this, man. I'm putting him on here. I think his image is so down the drain at this point. I think he's done coaching.
Yeah, I mean, look, he still likes the area because he was at that bar locally after that game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and we know what happened there. But look, in all seriousness, you bring back a legend. You're late in the process if Ryan Day does leave, so some of the best candidates, you don't have access to them. For a couple of years, Urban Meyer, I wouldn't.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. I would do this. I'd go all in on this. I'd have him higher, but, Dabo seems to love Clemson. Why not, man? I mean, we've talked about it. You lose your OC, you lose your DC, you lose your athletic director, and you have your worst recruiting class in 5 years. If you're ever going to leave, it seems like now is the time.
To a soaring brand that's only getting better, seemingly.
And look, Clemson has become a blue blood, but it ain't no Ohio State. Let's make that very, very clear. How about Marcus Freeman? And I also think there's no chance of this, but there was chatter that he was their top target to be defensive coordinator before Notre Dame promoted him. They ended up hiring Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State instead. Any chance they could lure Freeman after one game as Notre Dame's head coach?
No. He talks about culture. He talks about image.
He would look
he
like
talks
a fraud
about
if he did
Notre
this.
Dame being his dream job. He ain't leaving after everything that he said, although we've seen it before with other coaches for Ohio State. He's staying at Notre Dame.
How about Mike Vrabel? And this might sound out there. He's a head coach of the Titans.
Went to Ohio State.
They might win the AFC in the regular season. He's a Buckeye, though, and what's a bigger brand, the Ohio State Buckeyes or the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Look,
and Ohio State can probably pay more, too.
And when you're running a business, it is your job to reach out to the best candidates. So if you're Ohio State and that athletic administration, you're at least making a call for Mike Vrabel, right?
He was also on their staff 2011 through 13 as linebackers coach and then defensive line, so he has coached some in college football. Hey, I'm calling him if Day leaves. He's at least worth a call. How about Jim Knowles, who gets hired as the DC, was a Broyles Award finalist. Could you just promote the guy you just brought in just from a stability standpoint? That seems unlikely, but it could be one of those, like, one-year trial things, kind of like what you were saying with Urban, like, hey, like, you're so late in the process, there's not a ton of, natural candidates out there.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, if Day were to leave, you're keeping Knowles on staff because if not, you're going to owe him a ton of money for having never coached there. So at minimum, he's going to be DC. Does a new head coach want to say, hey, this is your DC no matter what?
I don't know. I mean, after being an offensive program for so long,
Be a tough sell.
That's your brand. And I think a big reason why they're able to bring in the offensive players that they do are because they're an offensive school, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you shift defensively, you kind of go away from that identity. And then you won't get those same recruits where you're bringing in the top wide receivers on a year-in, year-out basis.
We'll ask you guys, if Ryan Day leaves, should they promote Jim Knowles? Y for yes, N for no. I think the answer is no, but it wouldn't surprise me
By
if
the
they
way,
at least interviewed
would
him.
you have liked to have seen Ohio State against Georgia instead of Michigan against Georgia in hindsight? With Smith and Jigba going off?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, better offense?
Yeah. I think
Just
it's better.
came to my brain.
I think it would have been a better matchup.
The takes are always brewing.
Michigan ended up just being a worse Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it came down to. Top 5 we go. How about Bill O'Brien? You want to stay offense? Well, Bill O'Brien can do just that.
Yeah, I mean, look, in 5 of 6 years with the Houston Texans, the guy won 9 or more games. So he won a lot of games. A lot of people like to rip him because his general managing and head coach tenure with the Houston Texans was disastrous. But Bill O'Brien, the football mind, you're seeing it at Alabama. You saw it with the Houston Texans. You saw that he made Christian Hackenberg a draft pick, and he's one of the worst college quarterbacks of all time who lost to Temple. Goes to show you how good B.O.B. is. Now, if you want to lay down some bets on the national championship game, NFL playoffs, as that season comes down to the wire, maybe even some NBA games and prop bets as well, you can do so thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS. All year long, they've been offering this killer 125% deposit bonus. So if you go to chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code chat125, you get a 125% deposit bonus. So you put in $100, and if you do that using our link in our promo code, you get an additional $125 back. Now, with betting, you're always looking for value. I think taking Alabama on the money line is excellent value, because I don't think Georgia's going to win this game as 3-point favorites. So get some value there. Take Bama on the money line. I think they win their second game over Georgia, because I don't think Georgia and the Dogs have that mental fortitude to take down Roll Tide.
We'll certainly see what happens there. Mark Stoops, what he's done at Kentucky, I don't think can be applauded enough. In fact, I think it's probably one of the most under-talked about thing in the last decade in college football, that Mark Stoops has kind of made Kentucky a top 30 program in the country, and this program was like the Kansas of the SEC for a while. He's been tremendous. It's a big leap to go from Kentucky to Ohio State, but again, you get this late in the process. I mean, what candidates are you really dealing with? I think he's at least somebody worth interviewing.
Yeah, it's the similar point that I made earlier. Like, you pivot from being an offensive powerhouse to then going defense, and you're already in a defensive-heavy conference, and I think being offensive-oriented has helped you dominate that conference.
Matt Campbell, I think, would be a strong candidate. Regional, he's lost some of that shine, as we've talked about this year with Ohio State. not playing, or with Iowa State not winning as many games, but they were still very competitive this year. I think he'd be pretty intrigued if the Buckeyes came calling here.
Yeah, you know what you're getting, and that's consistency with Matt Campbell. He's been able to do that. Now, he wouldn't be as sexy as a guy like Lane Kiffin, who personally for me would be my #1 candidate for Ohio State if Ryan Day were to go to the NFL level over Luke Fickell. Lane Kiffin and his offensive mastermind, him being the guru that he is at Ohio State, he's going to continue to bring in great quarterbacks. He's going to develop them. He's going to do a good job along the offensive line. You're still going to be great at wide receiver. And defensively, with what Ole Miss was able to do, yes, they hired DJ Durkin, who is now the DC at Texas A&M.
Yep.
Him being able to identify good DCs would be massive for Ohio State because they were lacking in that department prior to this year.
Well, and you could just keep Jim Knowles, who's a good defensive coordinator.
Right.
Luke Fickell, could they right that wrong? I mean, many people believe Ohio State kind of screwed Fickell several years ago when he was the interim head coach and went in a different direction. I think he'd like the opportunity to be the Buckeyes head coach again one day. So if it opens up, I mean, you got to think he's at or near the top of the list if Ryan Day were to go to the NFL. So those are 10 potential replacements. Again, big if. I expect Ryan Day to likely stay at Ohio State, but the NFL will likely come calling. Who will be the Ohio State head coach in 2022? I say Ryan Day, but if not, maybe it's one of those names or someone we're not thinking about. Let us know down in the comments. Get a couple shout-outs. Appreciate those of you who have rocked and rolled with us throughout this stream. We're going to sign off pretty soon. No Way, 7.5 million. Not quite sure what you're referring to there. Oh, Urban Meyer, No Way from Clayton. No Way Day leaves. Yeah, I think Harbaugh's way more likely to leave based on what we know. But we want to get that confetti popping.
Yeah,
so,
got to get that confetti jumping.
Oh, that's good stuff. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Shout out to producer Jack for producing this thing. He is a true grinder here at Chat Sports. For Chase, I'm Harrison. We're signing off. We'll see you soon here at Chat Sports.